What's happening, YouTube? Welcome to what will hopefully be the first in a series of technical videos on the original Tesla Roadster. In this video, I'm going to remove and open up the battery pack from my own 2008 Roadster, with basic tools in a home garage with no lift. Let's just go ahead and get this out of the way. By watching the following, you agree to not attempt anything I've done in the way that I've done it. High voltage systems can kill. This type of work should be taken on by trained professionals. If you learn anything from this video, that's your own fault. Now that we're past that, let's start with the backstory on how we got here. Back in February, when life was normal, I drove out to Austin, Texas to volunteer at the Fully Charged Live event with friends. We had a great time, made some new friends, drove on the track, saw an EV1 up close. It was a great weekend, except for the part where I almost bricked my car. Unlike newer Teslas, you cannot run a Roadster battery pack down to zero and come back from it, at least not without highly specialized tools, and even then it's a risky process. At that low of a state of charge, some cells may become irreversibly damaged to the point where forcing charge into them may have some catastrophic consequences. So in short, you don't ever want to see this screen in a Roadster. New packs for these cars don't exist. If you get lucky and Tesla has a remanufactured pack somewhere, it's a five-figure job, and it may take several months at best for them to do it. I personally saw this beautiful glacier blue Roadster at the local service center last September 2019 with a bricked pack. And when I went by there last week, I saw the same car parked out front in a pickup area. It had been there for so long that its registration sticker was a year past expiration. So back to my car. When I arrived to my hotel in Austin, the car had 22 miles left in range mode. When a Roadster is in range mode, it's actually letting you stretch the capacity of its cells just a little bit. So in standard mode, which is the car's default, this is so low that the car might not even be able to figure out how low it actually is and brick itself. But no problem here, right? Because I chose a hotel with Tesla chargers in their parking garage, and the valet is hooking me up. Except this happened. I think I plugged and unplugged the car at least 20 times with plenty of expletives in between before finally, by some miracle, it started charging. And even then, it wasn't over. There was still a chance that the fault would come back and the charge would abort. And I had no way of knowing this from my hotel room. The only clue I had that the car was still alive and charging was the Wi-Fi signal from its dash cam. Fortunately, there were no further incidents and it topped off overnight, ready for a fun day at the track. So I got way lucky and was able to get the car home over 150 miles away. And ever since then, this fault code would randomly pop up and prevent me from charging. And even worse, it sometimes made the car completely undrivable. So then, what exactly is the problem here, and how do we fix it? Well, inside the Roadster battery pack, there is what they call an immersion sensor that runs across the width of the pack near the bottom. Its job is to detect water and cause the pack to electrically isolate itself from the rest of the car, which could be useful if you happen to drive your car into floodwaters, though from what I've seen, the pack is very well sealed. Obviously, I've never driven this car into a flood. I really don't know how the sensor tripped, but something needed to be done about it. So my options were, 1, take the car to Tesla and hope for the best. Browsing the forums, I found one instance of a Roadster owner having the same problem and letting Tesla fix it. They didn't actually fix it. They said the pack needed a replacement, and the owner ended up paying to have a remanufactured pack installed. 2, send the car to an independent shop specializing in Roadsters. There are some good ones out there. For me, that would be Medlock & Sons up in Seattle, Washington. I trust Carl and his sons to do a great job and charge a fair price for it. However, the cost to ship a Roadster between Houston and Seattle can be anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 one way. If I'm going to be paying that much to send my car across the country, there's going to be a lot more work getting done to it to justify that shipping cost alone. Finally, 3, fix it myself right here in my garage. You can probably figure out which of these 3 I chose, and I'm still here to talk about it, so you might assume that it actually worked out. Maybe. Before we get into it, though, I want to give a shout out to the Roadster Owners group on Facebook. This community is fortunate to have some very knowledgeable members, including a few former Tesla employees who actually built the car. Thanks to them, I learned exactly what needed to be done and figured out a way to do it with the tools I had available. If I had to do it again, I would invest in a two-post lift instead of doing it the way that I did, raising the car and taking it apart in the manner that I did. In the moment, I had confidence in what I was doing, and everything went as planned. Upon reviewing the camera footage, however, I had a few moments where I thought, yeah, that does not look so good. What's this dumbass doing? He's going to get himself killed. So this worked for me. I wouldn't do it like this again. And viewers, do not try this for yourselves.
So at this point, you might have noticed that I really took this thing apart. Every body panel that could come off did. Was it necessary for this job? Nope. But prior to deciding to service the pack, I'd planned on repainting this car to a new color. So since we were already in the process of taking things apart, why not just go all out and do everything? The seats and door panels were sent off to a local upholstery shop to be redone for my other Roadster. Its gray microfiber interior will go into this car when it's done. I'll have another video dedicated to that entire project.
So, very first thing we do before we start poking around high voltage components is we inhibit the APS. APS is the auxiliary power system. We want to first engage the parking brake, which is here on the ground. They're not really doing a whole lot, whether or not it's engaged. All right, now we're back to this display. Tap it 10 times. Yada yada, yes.
Some quick trivia. Way back in 2008 when Tesla was first assembling the Roadster prototypes, their shop address was 1050 Commercial Street, San Carlos, California. Sometime later, they moved a few streets over to 1050 Bing Street for additional space. Interestingly enough, the top secret technician code to access Roadster Diagnosing mode is, you guessed it,
Boom.
1050.
Big secret. Okay, so from here we're going to go into controls, inhibit APS. Yes, that's what we want. Okay, done. All right, yeah, I just heard the water pump shut off, and then pull the emergency disconnect. That is located on the ESS energy storage system, which is just simply a fancy term for battery pack. You can see it right in there. It's a orange shunt. We're gonna reach in there and pull it. So lift it up and pull back. Oh, wow. That was easier than I thought. Screen's dead. I think all power to the car has been shut off. So we are good to begin removing. Oh, no. Yeah, that's correct. BSM battery voltage too low. Next order of business, we're going to remove the PEM. Let's take this connector off. Disconnected. Same thing again. Wow, that was a long one. Got it. Next we have the ground strap from the PEM to the ESS. We're going to undo that. Very nice. Okay, here we have it. Pull it off to the side. Yep, there we go. Easy. High voltage. High voltage cable coming off. One, there's two, and the last. Perfect. So we got the car supported here. Jack stands under the rear control arms. We got the front up on these ramps.
Here we are unbolting the lower control arms and track rods from the rear subframe. Next we'll remove the struts and sway bar, and then we should be ready to separate the subframe from the main chassis. I should probably explain why I'm going through all this trouble when all I'm trying to do is remove the battery pack, which is clearly visible here. Well, as I mentioned at the start of this video, I don't have a lift. Just a bunch of jack stands, 2 floor jacks, and a motorcycle jack for supporting the battery pack. Without a lift, I can't raise the car high enough to get the pack out and away from the car so I can open it up. Sounds a bit extreme, but I previously owned and maintained a 2001 Audi with twin turbos, so I feel like this is nothing.
Got everything disconnected from the battery. Got just a couple of bolts holding it up. The jack is in place. It's a motorcycle jack I got from Harbor Freight this morning. Built a cradle out of 2x4s and 4x4s to support the pack. So all we gotta do now is remove the crossmember bolts and the pack to chassis bolts, and then lower. Notice I said lower, not drop. We're getting positive thoughts here. Get the battery pack down and clear the vehicle. So let's start with the crossmember bolts here. Twist the knob on the jack and see what happens. Everything looks clear. There are 2 bolts securing the body to the subframe. I don't know why they picked this point to attach the body, but it's coming off. If we were to remove the subframe without these bolts removed, it could rip. Yeah, it would rip that tab right off. I don't know how you come back from that. This car's body is composite. I believe it's a sandwich of carbon fiber on the outside, and then fiberglass underneath that, and then core material in the center. Basically, the point is, if you damage any of this, getting it back together could be impossible, or it wouldn't be the same. Correctly. Not gonna hold up much longer. Maybe I can mold a replacement in carbon fiber. It's a pretty simple part. We'll need to properly support this entire thing from right there back. Spent the past couple of hours building this support structure out of 2x4s on both sides here. These are the lower control arm bolts. This area of the frame that's intended to support the weight of the car to support itself on the ground. That shouldn't be an issue. And then again, I've got another piece over here that I've bolted to the subframe in one of the mounting points that connects it to the battery pack. So I think we're going to be okay. Alright. Nice gap there. We did it. Yeah, I didn't get any footage of it being pulled away because the GoPro happened to die at that exact moment. Subframe plus motor weighs in excess of, I think, 700 pounds. I'm actually able to lift one side of it at a time and just slide it around. So this is pretty hilarious. I took the entire back end of the car off to slide the battery pack backward. Check this out. The chassis curves inward back here, and it just happens that the battery pack is a little wider at the front, is actually locked in. Completely locked in. The only way to get this out is to actually raise the body about, I would guess, another foot, and then we can slide the pack back. The car has basically lost half of its weight. This battery pack is 1,000 pounds. this motor and subframe is about 700. I think the curb weight of this car fully assembled is about 2,900 pounds. So we've lost actually over half of the weight. Most of that weight was concentrated in the back. Almost there. Rear jack stands are pretty much maxed out. The front ones are almost there. Again, most of the weight right now is in the front of the car, so it is easily tilting forward as we jack it up. Yeah, don't do this at home, guys. I think we may be okay now. The pack looks like it'll slide back. Holy crap, we're actually doing it. The body weighs nothing right now, maybe 1,000 pounds. So these jack stands should be good. Yep. There we go. Very nice, very nice. Cool. So now we can start opening it up, unplug the immersion sensor, which will take like 10 seconds. We've done all this work to get this far. Got a bunch of bolts to remove to get the front cover off. This giant warning saying to basically cover your ass. How many more times you can say high voltage on this sticker? It's pretty obvious that you shouldn't be poking around in here. I shouldn't be poking around in here. Let's see over here, we got some fuses. It's a Tesla branded smoke detector. Oh yeah, right here is where the disconnect shunt plugs in. So you can see that it bridges between those two bars when it's connected. Let's take a look here. That little guy right there is the immersion sensor. So you can kind of see where it begins right there. Looks like it's a strip with 2 conductors. This goes all the way around the back of the battery pack. You can't see it. We have to remove all these sheets to get to it. But fortunately, all we have to do to disconnect it is so simple. So much to do for that. It's basically an open circuit, which is how it should be if the immersion sensor is not soaking in flood water. Alright, let's get this battery pack back in underneath the car, and then we'll lower the car down just a bit and then raise the pack up back to where it belongs. Close. Jeez, I can move the car with my hand right here. Almost there. rusted in. Okay. Scotty, get out. Out. Whoa. So we skipped quite a bit of the battery being raised up into place because the GoPro died, but there wasn't a whole lot to see. I was basically just lowering the car very, very slowly. At long last, the battery is back in the car and being supported entirely by the chassis. No jacks under there. Rear subframe and motor reattached. That should go pretty quickly. The battery itself actually didn't take that long. I spent more time driving down the street to O'Reilly Auto Parts, finding replacement bolts. The service manual recommends replacing the mounting bolt underneath. I figured while I'm in there, might as well. Alright, so get the subframe bolts in, all 4 of them, not all the way. We are finally back together. All the bolts securing the battery to the chassis are torqued to spec. The 2 subframe bolts on each side, they're in there, those are torqued. And then these pieces here, 6 bolts each, those are all torqued, 35 Newton meters. I've just reinstalled the PEM. Guess I'm about to reconnect 400 volts. Okay. That's it. Is it really that simple? Is it really that simple? I guess we're about to find out. Alright, let's see if this thing will turn on. No. Nothing. Oh, we got a fault. Oh, I hear the water pump powering up. Yep, it's, oh, yep. APS off, no pulse from BPS. Well, that sounds about right. 91 miles. That's pretty good. So the battery has been pretty consistent since we shut it down. CSB. I don't know what that is. Everything's starting to power up though. It's been a while since this car was last on. Let's just try turning it on and see what happens. Well, first we'll check these fault codes. Yeah, we know that. If that's the worst of our issues, we're doing pretty good. Okay. The truth. No way. The car is actually turning on. The car is turning on. The car is actually on. There goes the brake pump. The only fault code is the brake fluid. That's pretty good. Let's try driving it like 2 inches. Whoa, shit. Yep, it definitely works. Now let's try charging it. We're gonna plug it in on the 110 volt cable. There we go. If it throws an immersion fault, I don't know how I'm gonna react. This is the moment that we've worked for the past 2 weeks. So here we go. If it turns yellow and stays yellow, that's good. There we go. Heard a click. Okay, something else is going on here. Nope. It's fine. It's actually holding. Yeah, it's hard to describe that feeling. The first time that I put this car on ramps and got under it was to, I think, install the trailer hitch back here to the subframe. It's not there anymore. I removed and sold it a while back, but I recall distinctly back then being under the car, looking at this battery pack from underneath and thinking, holy shit, that is something that I'm never going to touch. And somehow I just did. And I put it back together, and it freaking works. Like, I can't even imagine what Tesla would have charged to fix this if they could even figure it out. That's how most service centers work for these cars. Instead of actually getting to the root cause, they'll just replace the entire thing, which I guess makes sense from a business perspective. It's less time spent. You can turn these parts around quickly, remanufacture the ones that are sent back to California. But with these cars, they're losing expertise. These cars are, 10 to 12 years old. Well, 9. Like the 2011s were the last ones in the U.S. So not 9 to 12 years old this year, which for a company like Tesla is a long time. I think most of their original Roadster techs are no longer there. These cars are really cool to work on, and I'm really happy to keep this one on the road.